Tonight we're going in depth on a major Oklahoma case before the U.S. Supreme Court that has the potential to redefine the separation of church and state, not just here, but nationwide. Tomorrow, 8 justices will hear arguments over the creation of the nation's first religious charter school using your taxpayer dollars, St. Isidore of Seville Online Catholic Charter School.
The reality is clear. Our students need more options. We have to be a leader in school choice, and we have to protect religious freedoms here in the state of Oklahoma.
What started out as a plan to give Catholic families in rural Oklahoma more educational options without them being charged tuition is now headed to the highest court in the land and could reshape the U.S. forever.
I appear today as the state's chief law officer to defend the separation of church and state, which a state-created and state-funded public religious school would all but eradicate.
Attorney General Gentner Drummond's win at the Oklahoma State Supreme Court will now be studied by the U.S. Supreme Court to see if the creation of St. Isidore of Seville Online Catholic Charter School violates the First Amendment by respecting an establishment of religion, or if not allowing the school also violates the First Amendment by not letting Catholic families freely educate their children in accordance with their religious beliefs.
With all due respect to this court, the first provision of the Oklahoma Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, makes the U.S. Constitution the supreme law of the land.
Since last summer's state Supreme Court ruling, the school has been on hold. Right now, in the eyes of the law, charter schools are public schools and must be open to everyone. St. Isidore's founders say it is open to everyone who wants to receive a state-funded Catholic education that includes mandatory attendance to Mass.
That's the difficulty with this lawsuit, is it's really kind of throwing a wrench in the system for the launch of a school and providing the educational services that we intend to provide for these kids that really need it.
If a majority on the court rules Oklahoma is discriminating against Catholic families by not letting them establish St. Isidore, it would not only allow for the nation's first religious charter school using taxpayer funds to be established, but it would open the door to Muslim and Jewish and other faiths to also access taxpayer money for their own schools.
To unlock more school options, I'm always going to be supportive of that.
Justice Amy Coney Barrett recused herself from hearing the St. Isidore case tomorrow. Before she was appointed to the High Court, Barrett taught at the Notre Dame University Law School. That is the same law school that's been assisting the Catholic Church's legal arguments before the state Supreme Court and now the U.S. Supreme Court. Barrett did not want her personal ties to put the case in jeopardy. This does create a scenario of a 4-4 tie that would default to keeping St. Isidore illegal should that 4-4 tie be the final ruling and case. Though he argued the case before the state Supreme Court, Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond will not be arguing before the U.S. Supreme Court tomorrow. Drummond hired this man you see here, Gregory Gare, a partner in the D.C. office of Latham and Watkins LLP and former colleague and mentee of U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts. He is expected to cater his arguments towards Roberts, who he knows best. With there needing to be at least a 4-4 split to stop the school, Roberts could be a key vote in the case. Religious groups have been on a winning streak in recent years at the U.S. Supreme Court, and some are wondering if there will be a four-peat in this case. Let's take a look at those 3 cases that have now paved the way for tomorrow. The first ruling came in 2017 in the Trinity Lutheran case. The court ruled a state cannot deny a grant to a religious organization solely because of its religious status when the grant is a part of a generally available generally available to secular programs. Then in 2020 for the Espinoza case and in 2022 with the Carson case, families given state money to attend private schools were given the right to choose religious options. The Supreme Court will have to grapple with the fact that Oklahoma has for a while had a clause in its state constitution making a school like St. Isidore illegal. Section 5, Article 2 of the state constitution says that public funds, aka taxpayer dollars, cannot be used for sectarian or religious purposes. Back in 2016, we all voted on State Question 790 that would have done away with that. But instead, Oklahoma voters by 57% said the clause should stay in the state constitution. State lawmakers in recent years have chipped away at this and have also had to tweak it because of those Supreme Court rulings we just told you about. Join us here tomorrow for Fox 23 News at 6:30 as we go in depth on those arguments. We will have the audio of the Supreme Court. Devin Lyon and I will have local reaction as well. Sometimes you get a sense of the tone with their voices, how the justices are leaning, and we will be listening.